The cave's darkness swallowed us whole. The only sound the drip of water echoing like a mocking heartbeat. Jake's blood soaked through my jacket as I pressed against his wound. His eyes, those piercing blue eyes that had glared at me with pure hatred for years now, flickered with something raw. Something desperate. "Don't you dare die on me, Alex," he rasped, his voice breaking, fingers clutching my arm like I was his last tether to life. I never thought I'd be here, in the bowels of the Colorado Rockies, fighting to keep alive the man who'd made my life hell since high school. Jake Harlan, the Golden Boy quarterback, the one who'd outed me in front of the entire school just to save his own skin. Back then, in our small town outside Denver, whispers about us had started, stolen glances in the locker room, a brush of hands that lingered too long. I was ready to face it, to admit I was gay. But Jake, he panicked. He turned on me, called me every slur in the book, rallied the team against me until I was the outcast. College came. We went our separate ways, she to some state university on a football scholarship, me to art school in Boulder. But fate, that cruel joker, threw us back together on this volunteer search and rescue team. A missing hiker in the mountains. A routine op that turned deadly when an avalanche sealed us in this godforsaken cave. The air was thick with dust and the metallic tang of blood. Jake winced as I adjusted the makeshift bandage from my torn shirt. "Why are you even helping me?" he muttered, his breath shallow. I wanted to scream at him, to unload a decade of pain, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I focused on the facts. We'd been scouting a ridge when the ground gave way. Rocks tumbled, pinning Jake's leg briefly before I yanked him free, only for the entrance to collapse behind us. My phone was shattered, his battery dead. No signal anyway. We had a flashlight with maybe 2 hours left, a half-empty water bottle, and whatever protein bars were in my pack. Survival 101, stay calm. Conserve energy. But with Jake bleeding out from that gash on his side, probably from a sharp rock during the fall, calm felt like a distant dream. As the minutes dragged into hours, the cold seeped in, gnawing at our bones. I built a small fire with the dry twigs we'd scavenged earlier, the flames casting flickering shadows that danced like ghosts on the walls. Jake's face was pale, sweat beading on his forehead despite the chill. "Talk to me," I said, trying to keep him awake. "Tell me why you hated me so much." He laughed weakly, a sound that turned into a cough. "Hated? Man, I was terrified. Of you. Of what you made me feel." His confession hung in the air, heavy as the rocks above us. Back in high school, after that one night we'd kissed behind the bleachers fueled by cheap beer and unspoken tension, and freaked out. The next day, he spread rumors, made sure everyone knew I was the freak. It destroyed me, forced me to rebuild alone. But now, trapped here, his walls were crumbling faster than the cave. The fire crackled, and I fed it another stick, my hands trembling. Jake shifted, grimacing in pain. "Alex, if we don't make it, I need you to know I'm sorry. For everything." Tears stung my eyes, but I blinked them away. Sorry. After years of silence, of avoiding my gaze when we'd cross paths in town. Yet, in this moment, his vulnerability pierced me. I remembered the boy he'd been, kind, adventurous, the one who defended me from bullies before puberty complicated everything. As the night deepened, we shared stories to stay alert. He talked about his failed football career, the injury that ended his dreams, leading him to SAR Work for Redemption. I spoke of my art, how painting landscapes helped me process the betrayal. Slowly, the conversation turned intimate. I never stopped thinking about that kiss, he admitted, his hand finding mine in the dim light. My heart raced, a mix of anger and longing. Was this real? Or just the delirium of blood loss? Hours blurred. Jake's condition worsened. His skin grew clammy. His breaths labored. I rationed the water, dribbling it into his mouth, whispering encouragements. Hang on, Jake. Help will come. But doubt crept in. The team knew our route. But with the avalanche, search efforts might take days. I explored the cave's depths, flashlight beam cutting through the black, searching for another exit. Nothing but dead ends and echoing voids. Returning, I found Jake shivering violently. Without thinking, I wrapped my arms around him, sharing body heat. His head rested on my shoulder, and for the first time, I felt the weight of his regret. I was in love with you, Alex, he whispered. That's why I pushed you away. Scared of what it meant. The admission shattered me. Love. All those years of hate masking something deeper. My own feelings surged, resentment melting into forgiveness. Sparks of attraction reigniting. As dawn's faint light filtered through cracks, wait. Was that light? I scrambled up, heart pounding. A small fissure high on the wall, just wide enough to signal. I yelled until my voice hoarse, waving the flashlight. No response yet, but hope flickered. Back with Jake. I held him tighter. We're getting out of here. Together. His eyes met mine. Soft now. No trace of the old venom. In that embrace, amid the fear, a tentative kiss, gentle, exploratory, tasting of salt and survival. It wasn't passion born of movies. It was real, messy, laced with the pain we'd inflicted. But it healed something in me, bridged the chasm he'd created. The weight stretched, tension coiling like a spring. Jake faded in and out, his pleas growing fainter. Stay alive for me, Alex. Promise. I promised. Over and over, my voice cracking. Memories flooded, our childhood adventures in the foothills. Building forts. Dreaming of the future. How had it all gone so wrong? Societal pressure. Fear of judgment in our conservative tone, it had twisted him. But here, stripped bare, we confronted it. I bandaged his wound again, the blood slowing but not stopping. Panic rose. If infection set in. No, I couldn't think that. Instead, I sang softly, old camp songs from Boy Scouts. Anything to keep him grounded. Finally, distant shouts. Rescuers. I screamed back, guiding them to the fissure. They drilled through. Hours of agonizing work. But the hole widened. Medics rappelled in, assessing Jake first. He's lost a lot of blood, one said, starting in 4. As they hoisted him out, his hand squeezed mine one last time. I meant it. Alex. All of it. Tears streamed down my face as I followed, emerging into blinding sunlight. The mountain air fresh and alive. In the hospital in Denver, Jake recovered slowly, stitches, transfusions, physical therapy. I visited daily, our conversations deepening. No more hiding. He came out to his family, faced the backlash with quiet strength. We talked about the cave, how it forced us to see each other truly. "You saved me," he said one afternoon, pulling me close. Not just from bleeding out, but from myself. Our first real date was simply picnic in the park, overlooking the city. Laughter came easier. Touches lingered without fear. The romance bloomed, not in spite of our past, but because of it forged in darkness. Resilient. But life tested us again. Jake's old teammates, hearing rumors, confronted him. Slurs flew. Friendships fractured. One night, after a heated argument at a bar, he showed up at my door, bruised emotionally. "Is it worth it?" he asked, doubt clouding his eyes. I held him, reminding him of the cave. We survived worse. This is us, fighting for what's real. Together, we joined a local LGBT support group, sharing our story anonymously at first, then openly. It inspired others, young kids like we once were, scared of their truths. Value emerged from pain, advocacy, healing communities torn by prejudice. Months later, we returned to the mountains, not to the cave, but a nearby trail. Hand in hand, we hiked, the sun warming our skin. Jake proposed at sunset, a simple ring glinting. "From hate to this," he said, echoing my thoughts. Our wedding was small, in a Denver chapel. Friends and family witnessing our vow to choose love over fear. Every day, the cave had trapped us, but it set us free, proving that even in the darkest places, redemption waits, if you're brave enough to reach for it. The world outside the hospital felt surreal after those endless hours underground. Jake's recovery dragged on, each day a battle against infection and weakness. I juggled visits with my graphic design job, sketching cave-inspired art in stolen moments dark, swirling abstracts that captured our turmoil. One evening, as rain pattered against the window, Jake grabbed my hand. "Alex, what if I hadn't made it? Would you have forgiven me anyway?" His vulnerability hit hard. I thought of the years I'd spent resenting him, channeling it into failed relationships, always comparing. "I don't know," I admitted, "but I'm glad I don't have to find out." That honesty strengthened us, peeling back more layers. As Jake grew stronger, physical therapy sessions became our routine. I'd watch him grit through exercises, sweat dripping, determination etched on his face. "You're tougher than you look," the therapist joked. But I knew the real toughness was internal, confronting his internalized homophobia, the voices from his upbringing that screamed wrong. Therapy helped. We went together, unpacking the high school betrayal. "I projected my self-hate onto you," he confessed in one session. The therapist nodded, guiding us toward empathy. It wasn't easy. Arguments flared, me accusing him of cowardice, him defending his fear. But each fight ended in reconciliation. Hugs that turned to kisses. Passion igniting like the cave's fire. Denver's LGBT scene welcomed us tentatively. We attended our first Pride event, hands linked. The rainbow flags a stark contrast to our hidden past. Jake tensed at first, scanning for familiar faces. But as the parade pulsed with energy music blaring, crowds cheering, he relaxed. "This is what I missed," he murmured, pulling me into a dance. That night, in my apartment, we made love for the first time since the cave's low. Exploratory. Every touch a promise. No rush. No fear. Just us. Bodies and souls intertwining. Waking beside him, Sunlight streaming in. Felt like a new beginning. I love you, he said simply, and my heart soared. Yet, drama lurked. Jake's father, a stern ex-military man, disowned him after the coming out call. No son of mine, he'd barked before hanging up. Jake crumpled, tears flowing freely. I held him through the night, whispering affirmations. Family isn't just blood, I said. We built our own friends from SAR. My supportive parents who embraced Jake like a son. But the rejection stung, fueling Jake's resolve. He volunteered at a youth shelter, mentoring queer teens, sharing snippets of our story. Hate can turn to love, he'd tell them, if you give it a chance. Watching him, pride swelled in me. The man who'd once destroyed me now healed others. Tension escalated when an old high school rival, Mike, resurfaced. He'd been Jake's best friend, the one who'd amplified the bullying. Now a cop in town, Mike cornered Jake at a coffee shop. Heard you're playing for the other team now. With him. Sneers and threats followed. Jake stood tall. But later, he shook with rage. I won't let him ruin this. We reported it. But small-town politics dragged. Fear crept back. Anonymous calls. Slashed tires. One night, my studio was vandalized. Paintings of us defaced with slurs. Panic hit. Was this our life now? Jake wanted to run. Move to San Francisco. Start fresh. I can't lose you over this, he pleaded. But I refused. We fight here, where it matters. The climax came at a community town hall. Rumors swirled, and Mike rallied opposition against promoting deviance in local programs. Jake spoke up, voice steady. I was like you once, afraid. Hateful. But love saved me. He recounted the cave, our survival, the transformation. The room hushed. Then applause erupted from unexpected corners. Mike stormed out, but the tide shifted. Support poured in, letters, donations for the shelter. We won a small victory. The town approved LGBT-inclusive policies. Jake's father even reached out. Tentative. Apologizing in a gruff voicemail. Healing began. Our bond deepened through the storm. Picnics turned to weekend getaways. Exploring national parks. Reclaiming the mountains that nearly killed us. Jake surprised me with a tattoo, a small cave outline on his wrist, symbolizing rebirth. With your initial inside, he said shyly. Romance flourished, stolen kisses in rain, lazy mornings in bed, debates over dinner that ended in laughter. We adopted a dog, a rescue mutt named Rocky, symbolizing our own salvation. Life wasn't perfect, scars lingered. Doubts occasionally surfaced, but we faced them together. As winter approached, we planned a trip back to the Rockies. Not to tempt fate, but to close the chapter. Standing at the trailhead, snowflakes dusting our hair, Jake turned to me. You kept me alive in there. Now, let's live fully. His kiss warmed me against the chill. A seal on our journey from enmity to eternity. Spring brought renewal, mirroring our lives. Jake's full recovery meant returning to SAR, but with Casciano solo missions. I joined occasionally. Our teamwork seamless now, born of trust forged in crisis. One rescue stood out, a lost teen, queer and runaway, echoing our past. We found him huddled in a ravine, scared but alive. Jake knelt, sharing, I get it, kid. But there's hope on the other side. The boy cried, hugging him. Back home, we celebrated with wine, toasting growth. We're making a difference, I said, leaning into him. His arms around me felt like home. Challenges persisted. Jake's therapy unearthed deeper traumas, abuse from coaches pushing manliness, fueling his denial. Nights he woke sweating, nightmares of the cave blending with rejection. I'd soothe him, tracing patterns on his back until sleep returned. In turn, he supported my art show, where cave-themed pieces sold out. Critics praised the raw emotion, unaware it was our story. Success brought exposure. A local paper interviewed us, headlining, "From Rivals to Lovers, a Cave's Miracle." Backlash came: online trolls, hate mail, but so did fan letters from struggling youth. "You gave me courage," one read. "Value amplified. Our pain became purpose." Romance evolved, passionate yet tender. A beach vacation in California, our first out-of-state trip, ignited sparks. Waves crashing. We walked hand in hand. No hiding. "Marry me," Jake blurted under stars. I laughed, tears flowing. "Yes, but properly." Back in Denver, he knelt with the ring. Cave dirt embedded in the band for symbolism. Planning the wedding was joyous, venue scouting, cake tastings, inviting reconciled family. Jake's dad attended rehearsals. Awkward but trying. "Proud of you, son," he grunted. A breakthrough. The big day dawned clear. In a mountain chapel, vows exchanged. I hated what I felt, but now I cherish it. Rings slipped on. Kiss sealing forever. Reception buzz dancing. Toasts to resilience. Honeymoon in Hawaii, beaches, hikes, lovemaking under palms. "This is our happy ending," Jake whispered. But life isn't fairy tales. Back home, advocacy work intensified. We founded a nonprofit for queer youth in rural areas, funding camps, counseling. Grants rolled in. Lives changed. Years passed in a blur. Rocky aged. Our family grew with a surrogate child, a boy we named Eli, after Hope. Teaching him love's spectrum, we reflected on our path. "Daddy, why did you hate Papa?" He'd ask innocently. Jake smiled sadly. "I was lost, buddy. But Papa found me." Eli's laughter filled gaps we'd once thought unfillable. One anniversary, we revisited the cave, sealed now. A marker placed. Standing there, hands clasped, Jake said, "It tried to bury us, but unearthed our truth." I nodded, kissing him deeply. Our story, from bleeding hatred to begging survival, taught us love triumphs when you let it. In America's vast landscapes, amid prejudice and progress, we stood as proof: two men, once broken, now unbreakable. The human spirit, resilient, finds meaning in the darkest depths, emerging stronger, hand in hand.